Picture this. It's a Tuesday morning, you're already running late, and the second you turn the key, your car makes a sound you've never heard before. Not a good sound. A grinding, expensive sound. The check engine light blinks on, and by lunchtime the mechanic calls with the number. $600. And your stomach does that slow elevator drop, because you already know what's in your checking account, and it is not $600. So you sit in the parking lot doing that math we never say out loud. Which bill can wait? Which card has room? Whether you can stretch the groceries another week. The car isn't even the emergency anymore. The emergency is that there was nothing between you and the car. Here's the thing nobody wants to say. Right now, 27% of American adults have exactly $0 saved for a moment like that. Zero. Not a small cushion. Nothing. That's more than 1 in 4 people, and it is the highest number ever recorded. And here's where I'm going to lose some of you, at least for a minute. I think the first $1,000 you ever save will change your life more than the next $10,000. Not because of the math. The math on $1,000 is boring. Because of what it quietly switches off in your brain. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, I want you to see your savings account completely differently. Welcome back to Affluence Theory, where we dig into the psychology and the simple math behind money, and figure out why our brains keep working against our wallets. If you're new here, we do this every week, so hit subscribe and tap the like button so this video reaches somebody who's one car repair away from a very bad month. Because today we're talking about the emergency fund, why most of America doesn't have one, why that's not a laziness problem, and why the first $1,000 is the cheapest peace of mind you will ever buy. So let's start with the reframe, because I think we've been taught to see this thing all wrong. An emergency fund is not savings. I know that sounds strange, so let me say it another way. Savings is money moving toward a future you want. A house, a trip, retirement. An emergency fund isn't going anywhere. Its whole job is to sit there and do absolutely nothing, possibly forever. And that's exactly why people struggle to build one, because it feels like parking money in a room and turning off the lights. But look at what it actually is. It's insurance you sell to yourself, with no premium, no paperwork, and no company denying your claim. It is a wall between one bad Tuesday and every other part of your life. When the car breaks, the wall takes the hit. Without the wall, the hit lands on your rent, your credit card, your sleep, your marriage. The car repair was never $600. It was $600 plus everything it knocked over on the way down. Now, why does saving feel so impossible? This is the part I find fascinating, because it's not stupidity and it's not discipline. It's wiring. Your brain runs on a simple rule: now is real and later is a rumor. Scientists call it present bias. And it means a need sitting in front of you today will beat an invisible emergency every single time, because the emergency hasn't happened yet, and the bills have. And when money is tight, it gets worse. Scarcity narrows your vision like a tunnel. When you're worried about this Friday, your brain physically does not want to think about some imaginary Friday 3 months out. So we do the thing that feels responsible. We say, I'll save whatever's left over at the end of the month, and here's the trap. There is never anything left over. Not because you're careless, but because a checking account behaves like a bathtub with no plug. Whatever's in there drains to zero every month, quietly, and nobody can even tell you exactly where it went. And I want to sit on that bathtub idea for a second, because it explains something that confuses almost everybody. You've probably noticed that every time your income went up, your savings somehow didn't. You got the raise, you picked up the extra shifts, and 6 months later, the account looks exactly the same. That's not a mystery, and it's not a character flaw. Spending expands to fill the space it's given, the same way your stuff expands to fill whatever apartment you move into. A slightly nicer car, a few more subscriptions, a little less guilt about the delivery fee. None of it feels like a decision. It's just water finding the open drain, which is why the answer was never going to be earn more and hope. The answer is a plug. And I'll show you exactly where the plug goes in a few minutes. You've heard me talk about the boulder before. Building wealth is pushing the boulder up a hill. Slow, sweaty, unglamorous. But here's what having zero savings actually means. It means every pebble on that hill can knock your boulder all the way back down. A flat tire is a pebble, a copay is a pebble, a $200 surprise is a pebble. With no buffer, every pebble hits the boulder directly, and you lose weeks of pushing to a problem that should have cost you an afternoon. The emergency fund doesn't push the boulder up the hill. It just makes sure the small stuff can't roll it backward. And if it feels like you're the only one fighting this, you are not even close. Look at the numbers with me, because they tell a story. 59% of Americans could not cover a $1,000 emergency from savings. That's the worst that number has looked in years. 37% had to raid whatever emergency money they did have in the last 12 months, and 81% say their emergency savings didn't grow this year at all. And the big national statistic is sliding the same direction. In January, Americans were saving 4.5% of their income. By February, 4%. By March, 3.6%. That's not a country full of lazy people. That's a country where prices climbed faster than paychecks. And over half of adults say inflation itself is the reason they can't save. So if you're behind, hear me clearly. You are not broken. You are standing in the middle of the most normal financial situation in America. But normal is not the same as safe, and this is where the math gets mean. Because here's what actually happens to the 59% when the car makes that sound. The $600 repair doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. It slides onto a credit card, and the average credit card in America right now charges around 20% interest. Run that forward. A $1,000 emergency on a 20% card, paying a minimum style $25 a month, takes over 5 years to clear, and the interest alone costs you hundreds more, roughly $600 extra by the time you're done. One bad Tuesday, and you're still paying for it 5 years later. Ask yourself, how many bad Tuesdays happen in 5 years? That's how the hole gets deeper while you're standing still. The emergency fund isn't really protecting you from the car, it's protecting you from the 20%. Now flip the math around. Because the other direction is almost embarrassing in comparison. $20 a week, about the cost of one takeout order, is $1,040 in a year. That's it. That is the entire secret. The same $1,000 that cost the borrower 5 years and hundreds in interest cost the saver 1 year of skipping something small. Same emergency, same $1,000. Completely different life. That asymmetry right there is the whole reason the first 1,000 matters more than the next 10. It's the difference between paying for the past and buying the future. So here's how you actually build it. And I want you to notice that not one of these steps involves willpower. Step 1, open a separate savings account. Separate bank if you can, high yield if you can get it, because distance is the feature. Money you don't see is money you don't spend. Step 2, automate a transfer for the day after every paycheck lands. $20, $50. Whatever survives contact with your real budget. The amount matters less than the automation, because automation removes the monthly decision, and the decision was always the weak point. Pay yourself first isn't a slogan, it's plumbing. Step 3, name the account. Most banks let you do this, and it sounds silly until you try it. Moving money out of an account called emergency fund feels like a decision. Moving money out of an account called savings feels like a Tuesday. And step 4, set the first target at $1,000, not 3 to 6 months of expenses. Not yet. Most Americans say they'd need 6 months of expenses saved before they'd feel truly comfortable, and barely a quarter actually have that. If that's the finish line, fine, but it's a marathon finish line, and you don't hand a marathon to somebody who's starting from zero. You hand them 1 mile. $1,000 is 1 mile, and it covers the majority of ordinary emergencies: the car, the copay, the vet, the flight home. And once the first 1,000 is sitting there, here's the roadmap for what comes next, because a lot of channels never tell you this part. Milestone 2 is 1 month of essential expenses, not your whole lifestyle, just the essentials. Add up rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, minimum debt payments, gas. That number, whatever it is for you, is what 1 month of your life actually costs, and most people have honestly never calculated it. Just knowing it changes how you see every paycheck. Milestone 3 is 3 months of those essentials. And that's the point where an emergency fund stops being about car repairs and starts being about freedom. Because 3 months of breathing room is what lets you leave a bad job, survive a layoff, or move cities without panic. Get there in steps. 1,000, 1 month. 3, each milestone makes the next one easier because the habit is already built and the account already exists. The hardest dollar you will ever save is the first one. The easiest is the 10,000th. Now the mistakes. Because the road to a drained emergency fund is paved with reasonable sounding ideas. Mistake number 1, keeping it in your checking account. We covered the bathtub, it will drain and you will not notice it draining. Mistake number 2 is the opposite problem, getting clever with it. Investing your emergency fund, putting it in the market, locking it away where it grows. I love investing, but this money has one job, and that job is to be there on the worst morning of your year. The market does not check your calendar before it drops. Boring is the strategy. Mistake number 3, waiting for a better month to start. The better month is a myth your brain tells you to protect the present. $20 in a bad month builds the habit that $100 in a good month will ride on. Mistake number 4, using it for things that are merely annoying. A sale is not an emergency. Christmas, which happens on the same date every single year, is not an emergency. Here's the test. Is it unexpected? Is it necessary? Is it urgent? 3 yeses. Use the fund, no guilt, that's literally what it's for. Anything less, it stays in the vault. And mistake number 5, feeling like a failure when you have to drain it. Draining your emergency fund because of an actual emergency is not the system failing, it is the system working. 37% of savers tapped theirs last year. The fund took the punch so your credit card didn't have to. Refill it and move on. And that brings me to the part I actually care about, because the money is honestly the smaller half of this. Researchers keep finding that financial stress isn't really about income. There are people making 6 figures who are 1 missed paycheck from panic, and people making 60 grand who sleep just fine. The difference is the buffer. When you have 0, every decision happens in survival mode, and survival mode is expensive. It makes you take the payday loan, keep the bad job, skip the checkup that becomes the big bill. When there's $1,000 sitting between you and the world, your shoulders come down an inch. You think in months instead of days. You make one good decision, which makes the next good decision easier. That's the switch I mentioned at the start. The first $1,000 doesn't change your net worth much. It changes who is making your decisions, panicked you or calm you, and calm you is richer at every income. One more thing before we land this, because somebody watching is thinking, this all sounds nice, but you don't understand how tight my month is. I hear you, and I'm not going to pretend $20 is nothing when the numbers barely close, so make it 5. I'm completely serious. $5 a week feels pointless on a calculator, and that's fine, because the first milestone was never really the money. It's the identity. The day that automatic transfer goes through, something in how you see yourself shifts. You stop being a person who can't save, and you become a person who saves, just not very much yet. Those are wildly different people, even when their account balances look almost identical. One of them is waiting for life to calm down. The other one has a system running quietly in the background, and systems scale. 5 becomes 20 when the overtime hits. 20 becomes 50 after the next raise, because you never gave the raise a chance to disappear into the bathtub. The amount is a dial you can turn up later. The habit is a switch, and it only has to be flipped once. So let's go back to that Tuesday morning, because the car doesn't care about any of this, and someday it will make that sound again. Same parking lot, same grinding noise, same $600 phone call. Except this time, there's a boring little account with your name on it, sitting between you and the damage. You pay the mechanic, you refill the fund over the next couple of months, and by Friday you've honestly forgotten about it. No card, no interest, no 5-year tail on one bad morning. Nothing knocked over. The boulder stays exactly where you pushed it. That's what the first $1,000 buys. Not luxury, not status, just a Tuesday that stays a Tuesday. Start this week. $20. Name the account, future you is already grateful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.